How's it going there, everyone? It's Mr. Zan over here, bringing you guys a brand new Bleach discussion. And for today's segment, I'm going to be talking about Bleach chapter 685, guys. And this chapter is titled, The Perfect Ending. Now this chapter, guys, the way I kind of saw it, it kind of felt like it was like a sarcastic kind of tone through Tite Kubo's eyes, because I felt like maybe this wasn't the way he kind of wanted to end the chapter. Because, I mean, we're also getting another ending, or I should say another chapter in itself, in a couple of weeks by now. So that's why I'm assuming that this chapter in itself is kind of more sarcastically saying, like, oh, okay, I'm guessing this is the last couple chapters, you know. Here it is, guys. Hope you guys enjoy it. So here's the perfect ending. That's the way I kind of envisioned when I was reading this chapter right now. But the thing is, this chapter did give out some very memorable moments throughout the whole entire chapter, because of the fact that throughout the chapter, you know, there are so many new people that are actually moving up the ranks of the Sarete, and people actually, you know, that have been in the Bleach universe for quite a long time have actually shown some character progression that, you know, you're thinking like, okay, wow, you know, I can't believe that Oda actually went this route and actually did this instead of doing this and such and such. For example, in the chapter, you know, I was actually very disappointed at the fact that Sajin Kumamoto, he actually died, and in his place, who actually took over was actually Tetsuzaima and Iba. And that's, you know, in a sense, you know, that little scene right there, I kind of like the fact that Tetsuzaima was going to be the new captain, but the fact that is that, you know, he didn't really give off Sajin's, like a proper, you know, like a proper, like, death right there, you could kind of say. He basically kind of died off panel, you know. Because if I remember correctly, back in the chapter where he was like, if I remember correctly, Iba was actually carrying Sajin towards the battle scene, but it didn't really imply as if, like, if he was actually really going to die or anything like the fact that because of that. So that's why I'm like thinking, you know, yeah, he did die off panel, but what can we do, you know? But nonetheless, though, Rukia actually became captain of the Sarete, and that's, you know, that was really interesting, the fact that, because, you know, many people would have thought Renji might have been captain instead of Rukia, because, you know, Renji's actually, you know, he's had more battle experience, he's always been a fighter, he's always been one to take the lead, you know, and he's always been kind of like Ichigo's, like, rival in a sense, you could kind of say. Well, back in the early stages of Bleach, you could kind of say he was Ichigo's rival in a sense. But now, you know, when they introduced Renji again in this chapter, it was kind of, I would say, interesting to see that he really didn't really get that any character progression. He had longer hair, don't get me wrong, you know, but other than that, Renji wasn't really too, I would say, it really didn't seem like he was at his moment right there, at his best moment in this chapter. And also the fact that, you know, I actually like the fact that this chapter actually very heavily focused on the fact that the Zaraki Kenpachi's part, you know, they actually kind of used it as a tone down for the chapter, like a very comic relief with Zaraki. Then we had Hisage also used as a comic relief part. Like throughout the whole entire chapter, you know, when these two guys were actually used in a sense, you know, they're just used just to keep the tone of the chapter at a very mellow pace, because, you know, all the previous chapters have been just, you know, battle oriented. They're very fast paced, you know, very heavily toned and dark, you know. And this chapter, it just went in a very different perspective, because of the fact that Tite Kubo really is trying to wrap things up as quickly as he can possibly can, and by that he's actually using comics and, you know, just like very, I would say, a different type of style in this chapter. And, you know, it's kind of hilarious that he's kind of using Zaraki. You know, he's kind of using the quirk that, you know, like, it kind of reminded me of something off of Zoro from One Piece, and the fact that Zoro's always like losing his train of thought, or when he's actually trying to go to a certain destination, he actually gets lost. It kind of reminded me of something off of that kind of line, and I thought to myself, so shouldn't Zaraki actually be a little bit better at finding directions? Because apparently Yachiro was the one that was always leading him on, so shouldn't Zaraki do a little bit better? Or at least have Ikaku actually, you know, lead the way. But instead they actually went around, and it goes to show that Zaraki is also, he's admired now by many people in this chapter. And I kind of like the fact that it was very cool in a sense how Zaraki was had that kind of outstanding personality that he was kind of portraying throughout there. But it's kind of funny at the same time that Soifang came in and she actually was condescending him at that same fact too. And I'm just laughing at the fact, okay, that was pretty funny that Soifang is actually trying to condescend Zaraki. And I'm here thinking, like, I actually thought, I've always wondered if these two were ever fought, who would actually win? Because, Zaraki is just brute force and Soifang is, I would say, speed. So I was wondering, if these two were ever to fight, that would be pretty interesting. But that's not really what the chapter was mostly about. It was, like I said, it was basically mostly emphasizing the fact how the Bleach universe is now actually coming to an end, and how it's actually now has been lasting with 10 years of everlasting peace, guys. And that's was really what the chapter was explaining about. That all the characters were actually, just having a good time, you could kind of say. Like I said, the tone was very different from all the previous chapters, and all the characters themselves are just having lighthearted shenanigans and antics. Shinji himself was actually right there in the chapter himself. He was being back to his lazy self, just letting Zaraki do what he wants to. And I also like the fact that when Hisagi was used in this chapter, that's when I kind of thought that when they used him, it was another, I would say, sarcastic tone in a sense, because of the fact that Hisagi was explaining himself that he didn't really get a chance to actually show his Bankai, even though he mastered his Bankai himself. And I'm liking the fact that it's probably Tite Kubo's own style of way of saying the fact that, I just didn't have enough time. I didn't have enough time to show him. I'm really sorry, guys, but I just didn't have enough time. So here's him at his best, and basically him kind of Hisagi ranting at us viewers, basically saying, just babbling and just kind of basically almost in tears, as if to say, I guess if he really wanted to showcase his new Bankai. And personally, I would have actually enjoyed to see his Bankai himself. That would have been really interesting in a sense. But the whole chapter itself was hilarious, and it actually had a little bit of dark tones in the chapter as well, because when we were introduced in the chapter, there was like a little shadowy figurine that was actually in there, and we don't know if it's actually Bach himself coming back to life or anything back because of that. Because, like I said, it's been 10 years since all the captains have actually witnessed any, I would say, actual battles or have actually anything traumatic happening in their whole entire time from then. Because also the whole Sarate has been rebuilt itself thanks to Mayuri's contribution to it, because in the chapter they kind of were showcasing that Mayuri is actually he's kind of building this kind of I would say a new underground facility and such and such. And I'm here thinking that okay, Mayuri, he's actually doing something that's actually pretty beneficial towards the Sarate itself, and I'm assuming he probably actually had something to do to help the Sarate come back to life with all its ever-glanding, I would say, construction and architecture that they was actually built and found upon as well. And I'm actually liking the fact that in this chapter, when in the beginning of the chapter was pretty dark in a sense, because it kind of gave a little nostalgic feeling that it's the new generation of captains. It kind of started off and it gave that kind of feeling when they showed Ukitake's grave, and at least they showed someone's grave in a sense right there. It's probably Tite Kubo's trying to way of saying that if it wasn't for I would say Ukitake, they wouldn't really make it to the Soul Palace. So basically Ukitake was kind of like a central pillar in a sense, and also he was one of a very important character that was never really showcased. So maybe that's why I kind of gave him like a proper ending for him. But like I said, this chapter was pretty interesting in a sense, but just that just it kind of still was thrown off a little bit, because of the fact that it just, after that fight with Ichigo and Bach, it just completely goes into a different chapter, it's as if Tite Kubo kind of skipped a chapter or two. That's what I kind of felt off from this chapter. Like maybe there was another chapter that might have gone in between these two chapters in order to explain what happened with Bach himself. That's why maybe in this chapter, that little shadowy figurine that was popping out of the floor, maybe that's what it was actually going for, you kind of say. It's kind of sad too at the same time, because we don't really know what's going to happen. But at the end of the chapter, we're kind of introduced Akon. He's back at it again. and he's actually shown that there's a Ryutsu that's actually similar to Bach, and that's where the chapter ends, and it's giving us mystery and speculations as to what really could be going on, you know. And that's what I'm kind of confused at, the fact that, like, okay, if this is going to be the last chapter, shouldn't there really be nothing in itself? It's an epilogue, so there really shouldn't be anything else. Literally. This should have been really the ending right there. But since we're getting another chapter after this one, maybe they're going to explain or do a little flashback as to what really happened with Bach, or with Ichigo in a sense too, because Ichigo was not even introduced in this chapter as well. We weren't even introduced to him. And I'm kind of wondering what's going on here. Like, where is Ichigo? Is he the new Soul King? Is he back in the real world? Well, we're actually still kind of left in the dark as to what happened to other certain characters as well, and that kind of disappoints viewers, because, you know, what happened to Uryu, what happened to Urahara, Grimjaw, you know, all these characters that were in the fight itself, you know, are they alive, or what are they exactly doing? Is Huecamundo still back alive? You know, there's just still a lot of stuff that's still missing. That's why I feel like this chapter, it felt like it should have been explained a little bit better. Like, I could tell what Tite Kubo was trying to say, but just that it feels like there's still something more at hand. Like, maybe the last chapter should have been actually the start of the epilogue, and then this one ended, like, and kind of continue on from there. That's the way I kind of would have thought to see if Bleach was going through that route. But for right now, we gotta, you know, go with Tite Kubo's mindset right now and see how he's actually trying to end this. But like I said, guys, chapter is gonna be very memorable. So it's a, you know, perfect ending, you can kind of say. But like I said, guys, let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought about this chapter. What was your favorite memorable scene? What did you guys think about all the other people that haven't been introduced yet in the chapter? What are you guys' thoughts on speculations as to what they actually are at? And what do you guys think of Mayuri? What do you think he's actually working on with the new Nenmu that he actually has? You know, there's just a lot of speculations in the chapter that's kind of leaving us in the dark too. So let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought about this. But as always, guys, if you guys enjoy my content, just give it a like, share, and subscribe. But this is Mr. Zen, signing out.